Good day, and welcome to another Vivid webinar, a deep dive into network virtualization. Thank you for joining us today. This webinar is sponsored by HP. If we could go ahead and advance the slide. And we have two great speakers that are on board to speak with you today. The first is Todd DeCapua, who is a product marketing manager with HP Software. And Todd is one of the tech industry's most respected thought leaders on application performance engineering and a renowned speaker, author, and visionary. He did a lot of talks out at HP Discover, and some of you may have had the opportunity to meet with him there. His background in IT and QA covers nearly all industries, and he's consulted with over 70 different organizations. In 2009, Todd was invited to sit on the customer advisory board for LoadRunner and Performance Center, so he will really have a lot of knowledge to share with you today. He was also named 2010 HP Software Best and Brightest, and also 2010 Vivid's Worldwide Leader of the Year, and that we thank him for that. We also have, coming to us from HP Israel, Yoav Karnavad, who is a functional architect in HP Software. He focuses on planning the next generation of network virtualization products for all of you, and he has more than 12 years of experience in the software industry, in the development field, including vast experience in the networking domain and in the network management systems. This gives both of them a great background to speak with you today on our topic. Just a couple housekeeping things. I am a Vivid staff, Terry Sorello, a global engagement coordinator that helps bring these webinars to our Vivid community. And we want to share with you that this live session is being recorded, and the recordings will be available to all of our Vivid members. So just in case, too, you know people that were not able to join it or you want to reference it, you will get a link to the recording. And I also want to share with you that you will have an opportunity to ask questions. If we do not get to all the questions, they will be written in a document format that will also be posted on our website. And we'll go through how to type in those questions. In the webinar control panel down below, you can expand that over to the right, and you will be able to type in questions, and we will be monitoring that. Here's a little view of that control panel. So we will see those questions, and we'll be able to get to those at the end of the webinar, or again as follow-up after the webinar. Okay, and so I think at this point I would like to bring up Todd to share with us his expertise in this area for you today.
Excellent, thank you, Terry. So, Terry, thank you for the introduction, and it's great to be here with all of you today. I'm really looking forward to going through this, and what I've been looking forward to is really being able to take a deep dive look into network virtualization, share a little bit of the background into what it is and what it's all about and why it's important. Also, what Yoav is going to be doing for us today is a live demo of a product that we just released as generally available on the 12th of August, so only 6 days ago. And again, what this is LoadRunner 12.5 with network virtualization. We are soon going to be releasing a download of the LoadRunner 12.5 Community Edition with network virtualization built in. You'll get 2 licenses to go ahead and use it. You get 50 virtual users total within LoadRunner. Again, something we wanted to introduce to you guys today and make it available shortly. So let's get started with, what I think is an easy way to get some pretty quick results leveraging the capabilities around network virtualization. And specifically what I'm talking about, this HP Network Virtualization Freemium. So the amount of time that it will take you is only 30 seconds. So my suggestion would be maybe in parallel to listening to this, you want to spin it up, or I will also be reminding you at the end of this webinar of this link again. But what you'll see, spend 30 seconds, fill out this very quick form, within 3 to 5 minutes, you'll get a custom 20-plus page results report, and the sole purpose here is to help you understand specifically what the capabilities of network virtualization are and how they can help you simply by typing in any public-facing URL. The other thing that we also enable you to do is select whether you want to run it from a desktop, from a phone, from a tablet, and maybe you want to run it against a competitor. So, for example, I've seen some people run an HP.com versus an IBM, or a Home Depot versus a Lowe's, as just simple examples. Why HP network virtualization? So many of you probably already have some ideas of the answer to that question, but where Yoav and I wanted to start was this simple view and looking at single user performance. What we're looking at here on an XY coordinates is, on the Y we've got seconds. So at the bottom we go from 0 all the way up to about 1 minute in seconds, and then across the x-axis or this bottom axis are different transactions. So this could be, starting a web app, starting a mobile app, then searching for a flight, then booking a flight. And each of these, you can see the different response times based on the different network conditions. So, on a Wi-Fi, again, we're right in that 3 or 4 second mark if you look across all 3 of these different transactions. However, when we move to a 3G typical, it goes up. So if we just look at the start transaction, it actually goes up 5 times, from 3 seconds to 15 seconds. And then as you move to a 3G poor connection, it actually goes up to 25 seconds. So this is the impact that the network has on your application performance. And what you do not have control of in the world is what type of network your end users are going to be on, at least most typically. We all have, laptops, we all have mobile phones, we all have tablets, and we're out in the world and we're using these. We're often dependent upon that network, whether it be a MiFi, a Wi-Fi, connecting into a hotspot, anything that it might be. But this type of performance is what we're talking about, and why network virtualization is important. The reason that we wanted to show you single user performance is, if it doesn't work for a single user, why even worry about ramping up to a load or performance testing scenario? So right here in this simple example, we can already see that our application, when we open it over a 3G typical connection, our end users as a single user is experiencing it as 15 seconds. And again, the typical SLA that we hear in the world is about 3 seconds. I've also heard some organizations that have it as 5, some have it as 1, but whatever that is for you or for your organization, understanding that and then seeing these types of results will help you to understand what you need to do to optimize that application performance. Again, knowing that you no longer have control over the network. I always like to use a little bit of a customer story here to help you understand a bit more about what this scenario might look like in your environment. So as we look at these different scenarios, and this one specific user scenario, on the right-hand side you can see the servers that are under test, or the system under test, and then on the left-hand side are the number of different virtual users. So as we go through and we build this out on the right-hand side, what you can see is we're adding web servers, we're adding app servers, a database server, our storage or our database areas. All this should be very familiar to you as the systems or applications that are under test. So then as we go to the left-hand side, we're now going to have a number of different virtual users or load generators. And these load generators, as we build them out, you can see all these little purple lines. Well, these purple lines make up different networks. So again, looking at that is a simple example which you're probably experiencing every day in your labs. So let's go ahead and look at why is it that load test can find many issues. Well, local users without network virtualization, these are the types of results that you're going to see. So response time, a transaction response time is actually less than 10 seconds with no network virtualization. But again, we're now assuming that all of your different users out in the world are actually connected directly into your data center with a fairly clean, if not perfect, network condition. So think about it. I mean, do they have a clear fiber optic connection right to your database or right into your web servers? Or Are they actually progressing some sort of a mobile connection or a Wi-Fi connection or local area network connection? They are. So now when we're getting these results without network virtualization, and we're seeing that our transaction response time is less than 10 seconds, it's actually more around a 5-second transaction response time. And from a capacity perspective, we're showing that we're able to handle more than 500 virtual users concurrently. Those are actually false results. So when we look at that example, and what does it look like in the real world, we want to add things like maybe your data center or your servers are sitting in London. Maybe you have end users that are coming in from New York, they're coming in from London, they're coming in from Tel Aviv, they're also coming across a variety of different networks around the world. So in this scenario, how is it that you're able to recreate that condition in all of your labs? Maybe your development environments, your test environments, your pre-production environments, and your production break-fix environments. That's where this network virtualization capability comes in. So again, if we go back to this real-world load testing with network virtualization, we've already seen the impact of testing without network virtualization. And again, this is where we see the less than 10 seconds and 500 virtual users. But now where we start to introduce these real network conditions. So again, when we were looking at that picture with our data center in London and users coming in from New York, London, Tel Aviv, and then a variety of different mobile networks, you can see how the test results are significantly different. Transaction response times have gone up to that 40 to 50 seconds, and our capacity is actually less than 200 concurrent users. But these are the actual results that you would get by incorporating network virtualization into all of your environments. You can start to see why that's important. And again, this being a customer story, I wanted to also share another piece of the story with you, which is in this, mobile impacts all users. So in this scenario, and this is a screenshot taken straight out of LoadRunner, where I'm running 500 local virtual users. So again, these are the conditions which you're probably running today. And again, you could be using LoadRunner, you could be using any other load or performance product in the world. But without the network virtualization capabilities from HP, you're running them as local users. Again, right now I'm running 500 virtual users. Then I start introducing these mobile users. And again, I'm able to emulate those network conditions of mobile over this environment. So as I'm introducing these 50 virtual users, I've actually gotten up to only 9 of them introduced. And what you can see, I've highlighted for you with this red circle, which is with less than 2% of my overall users, so only 9 of 509, you can see this spike. It goes from about less than 1 second response time to now up to a 5-second response time. So that's interesting, but it also impacts all of the users. So now not only is the end user experiencing this less than optimal experience because we're at 5-second response time, but now the back-end infrastructure is being taxed more significantly by a mobile user than a typical end user, which might be over a perfect local area network. So again, I wanted to share this with you, and the reason why and how it all ties together in this customer story is, for example, so in the United States on the 20th of November 2014, there was a significant incident, or actually 2 site crashes on Black Friday for Best Buy. And you can see that I've circled here the reason why was this spike in mobile traffic. So in the example that I just walked through with you, we can clearly see how these mobile users, and again, in that example that I shared, 9 of the 509 users were mobile, and we saw it spike from 1 second to 5 seconds, not only for those mobile users, but for all users. So that type of scenario is exactly what happened to Best Buy on Black Friday in November of 2014. So again, this just being a very quick and simple customer story that I wanted to share with you as to how network virtualization should be leveraged throughout all of your environments so that you can optimize your applications prior to deploying them out into the real world and your end users trying to use them and avoiding things like this incident that Best Buy had incurred. Again, this was something that was very public. You can read about this and the impact that it had on their stock price as well as revenue and other brand impacts as well. So to provide you with a very quick network virtualization overview, I put this slide together because many times it can get a bit confusing as you're trying to understand what these capabilities of network virtualization are from HP and maybe how you would be able to take advantage of them fairly quickly. So in the next 3 slides, I'm going to walk through a very specific example, helping you to better understand this. Dead in the middle, you can see that there's this NV for HP, and these are integrated capabilities within our products. As you look under there, there are 4 boxes which explicitly show you what products we're talking about. So this capability of network virtualization, so being able to discover and capture network conditions, recreate them, test them, and then ultimately optimize and do some analysis on these applications so that you can deploy the most optimal experience for your end users. We've now integrated these capabilities. For example, you'll see NV for Load Runner that's been integrated in there for over 13 years. For Performance Center, it's been since Performance Center started. With Storm Runner Load, this is a product that we came out with just about a year ago. It enables you to do cloud testing, so load testing from the cloud. This capability has been built in as well. And then another product that we released about a year ago with Mobile Center, we now offer network virtualization built into that product. So again, these capabilities being integrated into all 4 of these products and available to you today. In addition, on the left-hand side, you'll see Network Capture. This is a product that gives you the ability to install it and go ahead and monitor up to 100 different point-to-point connections. Oftentimes, when that's used, it's really just to be used so that any developer, any tester, any team, as they're deploying and optimizing their applications, can go ahead and say, oh, okay, I want to know from our primary data center out to this regional office or out to this branch, I want to know what the specific network condition is today in production so that I can pull that into my development environment, test environment, pre-prod environment, or production break-fix environment and recreate those conditions at 100% accuracy and make it completely recreatable. The next one is Network Capture Express. This is a free app that we have on both the App Store as well as on Google Play. So you can download it, run it on your phone. It enables you to capture the conditions that you are in anywhere in the world at any time. I've also built into that being able to tweet about it, link in posts about it, also being able to email this. The unique thing about emailing it is what happens is when you email it, it also attaches the specific file of the capture that you just did. So now anybody who leverages HP network virtualization in any of these products that we're talking about, you can simply recreate that condition that that end user is in at the time that they captured it via Network Capture Express. On the right-hand side, you can see the NV Desktop and Mobile. These are both standalone products that enable you to leverage these network virtualization capabilities on a desktop and be able to then test whether it be a desktop application, a mobile application, any of these, and provide you with these results quickly and easily. In addition, you'll see the network virtualization analytics, and this package is a very, very powerful package that specifically looks at how is it we can get automated optimization recommendations to you to be able to optimize that application. Our customers are telling us that they're seeing at least a 40% improvement of application performance as a result of implementing these optimization recommendations. These are code-level recommendations that you can now automate and build into your development and testing process, all from network virtualization analytics. And again, we're going to see some of this today in the demo that we're going to be doing, and Yoav will walk us through that specifically. So as we look through that product group, I wanted to walk you through, what does this look like at a capture? So how are we capturing, how are we discovering these network conditions in the real world? So there's 3 ways we can do it. One is the global library. We have over 40 million end data points that will give you local area network, it'll give you Wi-Fi, it'll give you mobile, all these different conditions. And again, there's over 40 million of these with over 52,000 different cities around the world. So as you can imagine, this capability, which we call the global library, is extremely powerful and makes it very easy for you to now pull these conditions and bring them into these environments to recreate them so you can optimize your applications for all of those end users. And again, Yoav is going to be covering that in our demo. Second is the Network Capture Server. I've talked about that already a little bit. This is where you can set it up, be able to capture up to 100 point-to-point connections to get bandwidth, latency, packet loss, and jitter conditions that you could then pull into any of your environments. Lastly is Network Capture Express, and again, this is the mobile app. If you go out to either the App Store or Google Play and you search for Network Capture, you'll go ahead and find this app. As we move across this, being able to emulate and execute tests with these capabilities, I'm highlighting for you in here a few different items. I wanted to first start with Load Runner and Performance Center, and again, this is very simple to use. It's an easy licensing piece, and again, when we release the 12.5 community license for Load Runner, you will get 2 licenses of network virtualization. Again, be able to use it, try it, and then if you want to go ahead and incorporate that into your development and test environments, it's really simple to do. The second one being the NV for mobile, being able to do this, again, standalone with mobile, with desktop, also the other integrated capabilities that we had talked about with Mobile Center as well as Storm Runner Load. And then lastly is this analysis and optimization capability, and we will get into a little bit more what that looks like right here. So again, I'm showing you what this capture from Network Capture Express looks like. I'm showing you how this is instrumented within, this is actually a screenshot from Performance Center of how we integrate network virtualization into there, being able to very easily leverage existing scripts. There's no new scripting you have to do. All you're doing is basically saying, I want this script to execute as if it were running from this area on this type of a network with this many virtual users, and then you just set it to run. And then lastly, this is a very quick view into what our Express analytics look like. And again, we'll get into some more of the specifics in the live demo itself. Before we jump into this demo, I wanted to ask a question. So this is one of 4 polling questions. It should be available to you right now on your screen. And the question that we want to ask is, what network conditions do you recreate in your dev, test, and production break-fix environments? I wanted to make this available so that you could check all that apply. As we had spoken, you may have picked up on it, bandwidth, latency, packet loss, and jitter are the 4 elements that make up the network conditions in the world. So again, what are those conditions that you recreate in your dev, test, and production break-fix environments? We'll just take a few moments here that give everybody an opportunity to vote. And we'll go ahead and see what that looks like. And of course, you could also select the all of the above option if you would like.
And Todd, my apologies. It looks like the poll question launched and closed before people were able to vote. And I can't seem to bring it back for them to do it again.
Okay. So it looks like this one we will maybe have to skip on. So with that, Terry, what I would like to do is we're going to go ahead and hand this off to Yoav demo. This is going to be network virtualization for Load Runner 12.5, and as a reminder, this just released on the 12th of August 2015.
Okay.
And Yoav, you are up and we are looking good. And Yoav's got a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation he's going to use to help guide the discussion. But much of this is going to be spent doing a live demo. And Yoav, I'm looking at the clock. If you want to take 10 or 15 minutes, that would be great.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Todd. And just, can you see my screen now?
Yes, you look great.
Perfect. Perfect. So let's start, and I'll tell you what I'm going to show you in Load Runner 12.5. In this demo, first of all, we are going to see the new user interface that we have in Load Runner 12.5. If previously some of you used the Load Runner with Shunras, or as you can see in this picture, you have here that we changed all the user interface, and we'll review it very soon. The installation is much more simple than in the past. Right now, when you finish to install LoadRunner, the last screen suggests you to install network virtualization, and that's all what you have to do. You press finish and network virtualization will be installed on the machine. And we also added the analytics report to VueGen. That's the report that Todd mentioned. And let's see what we are going to have there. That's VueGen, and I assume you all know VueGen, and you create your scripts. And already while you are developing the scripts, we enable you to identify potential problems that might cause to your products to be less sensitive to the network. If I press the replay, at the end of the replay, you will see this page, and here you have a new link. Pressing on this link will open these reports that we have here. For each of the actions that we have in our script, we can see here what grade it got. The grade is going between A and F. A is the best, and F is the worst. And also we see here the score. Pressing on one of the actions, here we have the laptop iteration, for example. We have here a list of problems that Envy identified, and you also can very easily understand how severe we estimate this problem to be. Let's see some of the issues that we found here. For example, we recommend you here to reduce the size of your image. We divided it to 3 different sections, and you have very detailed explanations why we recommend you to reduce the size of this image. You can very easily understand what is the resource we are talking about. You can press on it and you can see the image. And what I really like in this report is that it actually creates for you actionable items. You can go with it to the developers and show them, look, if you do this and this, we might improve our product, our application. So here we have, let's review the other recommendations that we have here. We recommend you to use proxy caching. Here we recommend you to compress a component. Here we found, for example, that we download the same data twice. And let's just, for you, press on one of the links that we have here. And we immediately see the waterfall. We can see what was the resource that was downloaded twice. Opening the line, we can see here how much time was spent by downloading this resource twice. And of course, also you can have here the waterfall, and it can help you to understand what is going on in your application, if there are any dependencies like it seems to be here. We also provide you here some kind of summary to understand what you actually did in this script that you run in VueGen. For example, we can see how many images we downloaded and what was the total size of them. We can see here what type of data we downloaded and what network, what transportation we used. So this report is very useful, and you can very easily get this report while you are developing the script inside VueGen. So that's one of the new things that we added to LoadRunner 12.5. Now let's continue and see what else we added. So the license of network virtualization is actually now managed by LoadRunner. As you can see here, we have where you have all the licenses for the protocols and for the virtual users. You have also a line for network virtualization. And as Todd mentioned, we provide you 2 free network virtualization virtual users. And if you will add more virtual users for network virtualization, you will have another line in the LoadRunner license manager. In this version, we support all protocols, including Java and Citrix. And we'll talk about that in the demonstration. And we also make it much easier for you to use network virtualization, because right now you have all this list that you can see here of predefined network virtual location that you can very easily use. So actually what I'm going to show you now, as Todd showed you, is that there is a big difference between using network virtualization and without network virtualization from the point of view of a single user performance. I'm going to show you a very useful way how to use the 2 virtual users we are providing you. So right now, I will open a new test in LoadRunner. And I will just use the same script 3 times. In the first group, I will put no virtual location. In the second group, I will use one of the predefined virtual location you have. We will choose London to US East Coast. Right now, we'll emulate this network for this group. And we'll choose here to emulate third generation mobile network. I'll just change the number of virtual users, because right now we would like to use only 2 virtual locations, only the 2 free virtual locations that you get with the community license. And now I can run the test, and I did it before to save time, and let's look at the test result. Exactly, you see here exactly the same graph that Todd showed you before. Let's look here. We have here the transaction search laptops, it's called, and you see here 3 bars representing this transaction. We see here that without network emulation, it took 13 seconds to run this transaction. When we emulated this transaction with this transaction with the network from London to US East Coast, it took 19 seconds. And when we emulated the mobile device with the same transaction, we see that it doubled the time. Now it's 26, almost 27 seconds that it took the same transaction. So this helps you to easily understand what would be the user experience in the real world. And it's very easy for us to see the impact of the network on our scripts. Now what I would like to show you, if Todd showed you before, this scenario that we have a server located in London and virtual users spread all around the world, and then we saw the impact on the servers, and we saw that suddenly the transaction response time jumped dramatically, and the number of users that we can load, the total capacity, was reduced only to 200. I would like to show you how to very easily emulate it with network virtualization. What we'll do, again, we'll choose the script you would like to use. And now let's create our own virtual location. Let's call it location 1 just for this test. Here we see that we have 3 different ways to define the virtual location. We can either use custom if we know what are the network conditions. We can use the global library that Todd talked about. This is the huge database of samples from real users from all around the world. Or we can use a prepared recording of one of the capture tools that Todd mentioned shortly about them. So let's see, first of all, I will define a network, a custom network. We'll put the latency here. We'll put the packet lost. We'll choose the download bandwidth, the upload bandwidth. The next step will be to choose whether we would like to share the bandwidth. For example, if I'm emulating Office, everyone in the office is sharing the same bandwidth. If I'm emulating a mobile device, each mobile device has its own bandwidth, and in this case, we'll choose the individual bandwidths. So right now, let's choose the shared bandwidth. And here you see what the summary of all the details of the profile we created. Now I would like to create another profile. This time we'll use the global library. So here it's very simple. We saw that our users, some of them were in New York. The servers were in London. So we choose the server location and the client location. And now let's choose what network we would like to use. Let's say we're choosing the 3rd generation mobile network over T-Mobile. Let's take the business hours and communication quality. Let's leave it fair. And now, of course, we'd like to emulate mobile network. So we'll choose individual bandwidths. And we see here all the details of the profiles that we got from this huge database of real samples. And that's very easy for us to know how to emulate our real users. And just to show you the last option, let's say we have an office and some branches, and we like to know exactly what was the network between the office and the data center. We can put the network capture inside the data center and measure 24/7 what is the network behavior between the offices and the data center. We'll take this file that is created, which contains all the real samples of the network, and we'll just load it here, and we can use it while we are doing our test. So now, after creating our profiles, all what we will have to do is to choose the amount of, first of all, we'll need to choose the locations that we created. We created location 1 and we created location 2. And we'll choose the amount of virtual users we would like to emulate in each location. And we can very easily improve our tests and create them more close to what really happens in our production in the real world. The last thing I would like to show you is the capability that we added to emulate Java and Citrix protocols as well. As you can see, while adding emulation to Citrix or to adding emulation to Java, we have this icon here. While we are emulating network, while we are creating virtual location for Citrix or for Java, we can use only one virtual location for each load generator. So actually, while changing the virtual location for one of those Java or Citrix scripts on a single load generator, they will change to all of them. So actually, each load generator can have only a single virtual location for Java and Citrix. And that's the last thing I would like to show you. It behaves a bit different from regular profile, but for any other profile, you can create a virtual location for each script, which can be any location you would like to choose. So that's all what I wanted to show you. And Todd, maybe you can continue with the presentation.
Great, thank you, Yoav. And I think there's probably a few things that you went through there, the last of which were, both the Citrix client as well as the Java client. That is, as we think about those capabilities, I mean, it's something that's been a challenge for many people. And when they go and they start using Citrix, it's supposed to solve a lot of these challenges that we've all had. However, again, I'm a big Citrix user, and I know that I still have these delay issues that as I'm typing, again, it takes, maybe it's only a few seconds or even less than a second delay, but it can be significant. So adding both of those capabilities into LoadRunner 12.5 is significant for us, and then being able to emulate that. The other part that I wanted to highlight, Yoav, was exactly what you were saying, is for anything other than those two specific protocols that you looked at, you can set up multiple different network conditions on the same load generator. So again, it's really, really simple to use, as you could see, leveraging the same script, just adding different conditions to it. I appreciate you taking the time to walk through the global library and be able to see the power of that and how easy it is to get those conditions. And I think the other piece is, as you were covering the from within, where you're running the virtual users, where you're creating the virtual users, I mean, that capability to get those types of quick results that you can show, these optimization and analysis results, I mean, it's a lot of time saved, and you're able to get those immediately. So as you're creating your scripts, you're able to get that type of results immediately. So what we're going to do is we're going to relaunch our first polling question. So again, Terry, if you wouldn't mind opening that, I can see that it is open. So again, this is the question around, what network conditions do you recreate in your dev, test, and production break-fix environments? And this is really today. Again, we've been able to provide you with a little bit of information, a little bit of background, and check all that apply. And I'm just looking through this. Maybe there is a scenario where you're not able to do this today. But again, with these options in front of you, we'll just take a few minutes here and see how we're doing. If you do have other questions that were not covered in that demo, I know that Terry covered it early on, but in the questions section, if you want to go ahead and open that up and type in any questions that you might have, we can either get to them later in the webinar or be able to provide some answers to them in writing. I am going to be doing a blog post, as well as this will all be posted on the Vivit website. Excellent. So Terry, it looks like we've got about 47% of the participants have voted, and we can go ahead and share those. So again, coming back, you have what I'm seeing is 61% are recreating bandwidth, 54% of latency, and 25% with packet loss, 4% jitter. 21% of the people responded all of the above. So again, here's the response from our participants. Again, it's pointing to me of saying, okay, only 21% of those people participating today that voted are leveraging the HP network virtualization capability so they can recreate all of the conditions of a network in their environments. So we've done this. I hate to overpoll. There's only 4 of these total. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. So we're going to do this one real quick. And again, if you didn't vote last time, please try to now. I'd love to be able to get full participation. But what is the impact of deploying applications that have not been accurately tested and optimized? So the responses here: loss of revenue, loss of brand value, loss of customers, loss of competitive advantage, or all of the above. And for me, as I'm in and out of organizations, I have the opportunity to talk to, I don't know, probably at least 5 customers a week. And as I'm having these conversations, we're looking at this, and we had this outage, or the website was slowed down, or we got these really poor comments about our mobile app, and it always comes back to one of these 4 things or multiple of them. So again, it was an interesting question that I wanted to go ahead and poll you guys, see what the thoughts were of the people participating, and see if it's relevant for what I'm seeing in the market. Yoav, I don't know what you're seeing, or maybe what you would be expecting, but we're just at about a minute since having this open, and we've actually got a real good response rate here so far. So, Terry, why don't we close it? We're at a minute. 92% of the people who voted said all of the above. So, Yoav, I don't know, do you have any thoughts as to, is that what you would have expected to see, or have you expected to see something a little different? Again, 92% of the people saying all of the above is the impact of deploying applications that have not been accurately tested and optimized. Well, we are going to proceed. So what I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into was some of the pieces that you had shown, and again, knowing that these were kind of the top level pieces and very quick and easy, but within all of these integrated capabilities, this network virtualization analysis and optimization recommendations are available. For me, this is a huge value. Again, when I was a practitioner, living and breathing, development and testing and results all day long, all I cared about, all my CIO cared about, all my business leader cared about was results. The last thing they needed was to, quote unquote, buy another tool. But these capabilities are all about driving results. Familiar, but again, looking at a single user, you can see the scenario that we're running. You can see the types of results. What this is a waterfall diagram that we're showing. Should be fairly familiar to many people. The idea is in this waterfall, you can see all the different components that are loading, when they're loading, how long they take, the size that they are. Also interesting to me is the hosts, so where do they come from? But it's amazing to me that as we build these applications, again, it could be a website, could be a client server, could be a mobile app, could be something cloud hosted, doesn't matter. But somehow all these things just start getting loaded up and built into these different pages. This gives you a very quick and easy view to see exactly what it is. Also down the left-hand side, you can see the status or error codes. So many of these being 200s, you can see we have one 301. But again, this is a very easy way to start seeing what you have going on behind the scenes. So the next, I wanted to show what is this analysis and optimization. Again, we're running it as a single virtual user. These are the optimization recommendations that you will start to see coming across, as Yoav had shown you in the demo. These are things that you can immediately, engaging with the team, getting the developers to go in and fix them, makes it very, very easy. You can see there's about, I think we're up to 24 rules right now that are built into this optimization capability. here's one that we just look at. So try to reduce the size of cookies. So this was just this one transaction, and we've already found 14 violations. So, you know, as we then look at, well, what else do we have? So fewer domains. You know, do you know how many domains that maybe it's just your home page actually pull from? With this example, we're showing 7. But again, many times when I show this to people for the first time, they are pretty blown away of all the activities and everything else that's going on behind the scenes within these pages, and it becomes a very quick surprise. But again, it's all about delivering very quick results so that you can see what's going on behind the scenes. Proxy caching. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what this is. If not, again, I'm going to suggest you go out and run the NV Freemium. In that 20-plus page results report that you will get, we look at all 24 of these results. I also give you a 1 or 2 sentence definition of what each one means, and if there's things that you can go out and fix, I show you those. And again, this is run against any public-facing URL or IP address, and you can get those types of results to help you understand a little bit more. So as we drill into one of these, so reducing the size of images, you can very quickly see, you know, this is specific to an iPhone. Again, there's 3 violations that we found. So one of these, and the one that we're opening up, is GIF images are not, non-animated usually can be converted to a PNG 8 file format. So again, just thinking about who your end user is, how they're going to be viewing this, on what device, on what network, and let's go ahead and optimize that experience for them. This points you into exactly what you can go in and fix. And oh, by the way, here are the 2 GIFs that are being presented on this one page that you need to go ahead and spin into a PNG file. Will help you to optimize that experience for your end user. Again, this was what we were looking at specifically, and what that optimized image would look like specifically after we'd gone through and done our work. Again, another real example. This was a project that a few of us had worked on, but it was taking a tablet banking application and looking at, okay, here were the transaction response times. Again, the 3 transactions we looked at, same XY coordinates we were looking at before. You got 30 seconds on the Y coordinates here. And then on the X-axis, we've got 3 transactions, login, profile, and account. And you can see across these different 4 network conditions that we tested it, what those response times were, again, on day 1 when we came in to help them to optimize it. After optimization, you can see the improvements that they were made, several of these being significant. If we just look at, for example, our login function on a 2.75G worst scenario, we went from almost 25 seconds to about 8 seconds. So, you know, right there, you know, we're looking at being able to drop it, you know, 3-4x right off the bat. So if we now look at something like a Wi-Fi, again, we're going from about 8 seconds down to 1 second. There's an 8x difference. So again, all of this is by leveraging these network virtualization capabilities, iterative testing, being able to accurately recreate these conditions in your test lab. Again, you can see these different performance improvements overall that we found, 75 to 100% depending on that specific transaction. We found over 15 network-related functional failures. Again, sometimes people immediately go to performance. What does it mean for your end user at a functional level? What if they can't load the page? What if this image does not load? What is that? Is that counted as a functional defect, a performance defect? Again, many of these we start with a single user performance scenario, because if it doesn't work with a single user, it's not going to work when you run 10, 100, or 1,000 or more. So again, just highlighting some of the specific improvements in this scenario, and ultimately what it meant for when your end user comes in on this tablet and they load your banking application and they go to their account. Again, you can see we got this to sub-second, and that's where this organization said, you know what, let's spend a couple days to optimize this application so that our end users, when they come in and they look at their account, it's a sub-second response time. Again, made a huge difference here. Again, this was a application for a large financial institution, and it was actually their high net worth customers that we're working with on that specific app. I got a third of 4 polling questions. So Terry, if you could go ahead and show this polling question now. When you deliver less than optimal results, who do you fail? And it's interesting because I, as a performance engineering practitioner, will go ahead and often think about this. I write and speak a lot about it as well. But I wanted to poll this audience and very quickly get your feedback on who you think. Is it your end users? And the reason I call them end users is maybe they're customers, maybe they're not. I've worked for several large insurance companies, and one of their main end users are those people that are coming in just to get a quote to see if they want to become a customer. Or your end user, maybe it's just somebody in your supply chain that's ultimately coming in. As you think about business leaders, I clearly can see the business leaders that I work with every day, and I know that if one of my applications do not work, what's the impact there? Shareholders. Again, what are your shareholders? What's the market? What are they saying about less than optimal results from their experience when they leverage your applications? And at the end of the day, how about the customer? When that customer goes to use and access your products and or services, what happens when you fail them? And again, the last one here being all of the above. So we'll just let this go, Terry, for maybe another 10 or 15 seconds. Get your votes in really quickly if you can, and we will go ahead and see what the results look like. All right, so Terry, let's close it. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Wow. Looking down the list, end users, 9%. Business leaders, 3%. Shareholders, 6%. And customers at 6%. 76% of you responded with all of the above. So, again, that is the majority of what I'm seeing. But it's interesting because a lot of people do think about the end user first. So maybe that's why we saw 9%. Again, end user, customer, I think we need to think about those. But again, as we round out, who else are we failing when we deliver less than optimal results? It is everybody that we're talking about here. And again, maybe you guys want to throw some things in the questions, or if you want me to comment on other things, if you've got other ideas of other people that we fail, let me know. Would love to get your thoughts on that one as well. So I know that we've talked through and we showed you the demo with Load Runner. These capabilities are very similar in Performance Center. So if you're a Performance Center customer or looking to leverage a very large enterprise performance, the leading tool in the market, you can know that that's going to work the same way as the demo that you had done for you. We talked through some of these optimization and analytics capabilities from network virtualization. I wanted to show you some of these capabilities of these that I mentioned. So this is network virtualization for mobile. It's also used as network virtualization for desktop. So a couple different use cases. So the mobile one is probably fairly easy for many of us to understand. You've got a mobile device, you want to run some tests, you want to just open up that device to a Wi-Fi connection and be able to run some quick test scenarios and get some quick results. So NV for mobile 9.0 is how you can do that. It's also something that in a example like a data center relocation or a data center consolidation, again, you are moving this data center, so you're changing how that end user is interfacing with the application. That would be potentially a desktop scenario. So if you wanted to say, introduce, say we got a different network connection, but we're moving from, say, Natick, Massachusetts to New Albany, Ohio. It's only a few hundred miles, but in that you're actually changing for all these people that are in Natick, say in the finance and accounting department. They have a few hundred applications that they use all day, every day. You're now changing that condition, changing it actually pretty significantly. So when we run scenarios like that, another way that you can use this NV for mobile or NV for desktop capability in Network Virtualization 9.0 today is by recreating that condition. And before you even look at what are these move groups that we want to do, or maybe how much bandwidth or how much do we need from a pipe that we're going to drop into that data center from our existing remote office, be able to recreate all those scenarios and see how they're going to work, see what you need to do to optimize those applications before your data center move, your data center consolidation. So I did want to show a little bit about what's new in network virtualization for mobile. Again, this is the 9.0 version. You can see that on the left-hand side we've got a test manager. So this is where, as an enterprise or even as a development and testing team, you are going to want to have a few different people using it, maybe teams of people using it. So being able to now, create these tests or download different tests or accessing that global library that we had seen, it all becomes important. So you can store your tests here, your different profiles, all your different settings. You can even view the tests from the tests from the previous runs. And on the right-hand side, you can start to see, here are the different runs that we've had. Here are the different transactions. So, for example, we just look at one transaction here called Navigate, and you can see we ran a baseline scenario and a 3G busy scenario. Here are the differences from a transaction response time, the time spent on the network. Again, that's the other piece. As we think about the network and why is this such an important part, look at that. Just on the baseline, transaction response time was 9.1 seconds. On the network, it spent 7.5 seconds. That's unbelievable. I think that's probably like, a 70, 75 percentile. But then you look at the 3G busy scenario, the overall transaction response time was 19.4 seconds. 19.3 of that was being spent on the network. So again, if you're ignoring the network and you're not using that capability, you can see what you're missing out on and why your results are inaccurate. But again, all of this coming from all of the network virtualization capabilities, this scenario showing you specifically within the network virtualization for mobile 9.0 what those capabilities are. You can also see the different graphs and charts in the middle here towards the bottom. Some of the different throughputs, bandwidth, latency. Again, we can just look at the client in, client out. So if you want to see how chatty that app or application is, all of that being visualized for you in these results that you get. Again, fully automated and right there at your fingertips. Some of the other capabilities, this is what the waterfall diagram looks like within NV for mobile. Looks very similar on the right-hand side. Again, I talked about how we're able to upload different results, upload different profiles. If you wanted to capture these conditions, as UF had shown you, you can upload that specific file as well and decide where you want to store it. So again, as you're working collaboratively as a team, you're iterating on different versions of applications, you can now manage all of that at this server level for network virtualization and be able to use it as a larger enterprise team. As we look at that specifically, this is what the server looks like. Very quick screenshot. You can see all the different members you could have. This is where we're looking at specific user groups and permissions. So you have that level of, I guess, management. I almost said control, but it's really more the management of having these different accounts, different users, different groups, different members, and permissions associated with that to enable them to leverage these capabilities. And again, when incorporated into your development environments, your test environments, I often mention production break fix. So, maybe I'll just spend a minute here, but the idea is think about having, a production incident. You're trying to troubleshoot it. For many of us, this is our day in a life. But do you have the ability of, if you had an end user that you knew was impacted, and let's say they were in Seattle and they're at one of the large football games in the stadium, and they're connected on AT&T and they were using an iPhone 5, you now have the ability to say, okay, if that was the one impacted user that we know about, let's quickly recreate that. And within that environment, we want to recreate everything. We want to recreate that iPhone. We want to create the network that they're on. And, of course, that application, that their conditions. Again, we can talk through the specifics of how to do it, but that's this production break fix environment. Unfortunately, I still see when I'm inside organizations, in the incident management process, oftentimes organizations are still making code changes in production. For me, that's extremely scary, especially knowing how easy it is to leverage capabilities like network virtualization and others in this lifecycle virtualization space to now recreate them quickly so that you have these accurate and repeatable results where you could make changes in a more pre-production like environment and know that when you go to push that out to production, that is going to be fixed with 100% certainty and push that out so that all of your customers have a much, much better experience. So with that, I'm going to go to, this is our last polling question. If we can have the same number of people participate as we did last time, that would be awesome. So in polling question number 4, we're looking at, what industries need network virtualization capabilities, and check all that apply. So again, I'm showing banking and financial services, pharmaceutical and healthcare, hotel, restaurant, travel, government and public sector, or all of the above. And it's interesting because this is one of the big questions that I get as, I'm around and I'm talking to a lot of different people, and we'll get into the specifics here in a little bit, but who is it that has these end users? Who is it that has these customers? Who is it that has shareholders and all these people that are now out and using systems and services and trying to access products? I mean, we shared the one Best Buy example, but think about it. I mean, when you are, I travel a lot, and when I'm on the road, I'm using some specific applications on my mobile app, and if they don't work, it's a big deal. And I can tell you, more times than not, it seems like they're either shutting down and rebooting, or the connection is just so slow I cannot use all these rich features that are available. Same thing with my banks. As I go and I look at other people like healthcare, I mean, there's some new capabilities that are being rolled out, from all kinds of different organizations, pharmaceutical or healthcare. Again, are your end users able to use it? Or maybe the biggest pharmaceutical team leveraging mobile today, their sales team. When they're out in the field and they're working with doctors, how is it that their sales team is supposed to be interacting with all of this information? Again, there's legal and regulatory reasons why they need to have access to it, in addition to, just making sure that they're appropriately informing the doctors on the capabilities of these different pharmaceuticals before they buy them, so that for you and I, these patients are getting what we think we're getting. Government and public sector, we can go through all the different scenarios. I just spoke to the IRS here in the United States. This is the Internal Revenue System, and again, when I went and I spoke to them, very quickly we got to an understanding that yes, end users, we're using products like TurboTax to do our taxes, our personal taxes, and when we do that, we're connecting into different services. Well, these services are actually running across a network. So looking at the poll results, it's interesting. 13% of you said banking and financial services, 0 pharmaceutical and healthcare, 4% on hotel, restaurant, and travel, 4% on government and public sector, 79% of those of you who responded said all of the above. So I think this is exactly in line with where I'm seeing in the market. It's almost humorous to me that many people think this is only a banking and financial services type thing. And again, this survey or this poll, we got 13% of that. I'm encouraged, though, that, again, before going into a little bit more of the detail, 79% of you guys said all of the above. So, again, I think we got a good, healthy group here. And Yoav, did you want to add some commentary?
Yeah, actually, I'm visiting so many customers from different industries, and they are all surprised to see the impact of the network on their applications. Sometimes even they manage to reproduce some issues, they never manage to reproduce them just because they added the network virtualization to their testings. So actually, I just suggest everyone just to try and to see the impact of network virtualization on their application. Usually the results are really surprising.
You're absolutely right. And you have, I guess, again, I mentioned the NV freemium at the opening. I know I've mentioned it a couple times. I'm also going to have the URL up at the end, but I think that's a really easy way that you can get a quick understanding of, well, what does that mean for my organization, or, what is it my organization versus my competitor, and give you something that you can quickly share to provide more visibility into these results and maybe why it would matter to you. So I know that we have a number of to get to. I want this to be a real deep dive session for all of you to give you a more in-depth understanding of the whys and the whats of network virtualization from HP. So one of the areas that Yoav and I wanted to spend some more time on was, well, what are these different use cases, or even considering them, implementation strategies? So how is it that people implement these capabilities that we've talked about in different use cases? So the first one is we could just look at manual tests. So again, this could be a PC or some sort of a client, and we've got network virtualization 9.0 right now that's sitting in the middle, and then we've got that system under test. Yoav had shown us, we can say, okay, where is it that we want to recreate these conditions? And this is how we do that. So now within NV 9.0, you have the ability to say, okay, I want this to look like a London to New York good condition. Well, okay, I think we've seen that, and hopefully everybody has a fairly good understanding of what that looks like. As we build this out, well, we also want to have a PC or a client of some sort be able to also recreate a Paris to Sydney busy connection. So again, all this being able to do either as a single or multiple user modes, and you can control these and change these as you would continue to run your tests. But again, if this is something you wanted to quickly adopt within your organization, bring in something like Network Virtualization 9.0, either the mobile or the desktop capability, and recreate these conditions, run the tests manually, and you're able to get all the analysis and the optimization, also the global libraries, everything that you've seen here today. But again, this is how you would quickly and easily do that for manual tests. Now, if we wanted to talk about mobile, it's not that different. So we can now see all the way on the left is our mobile client. The fun thing here is you can see how we've got the router with Wi-Fi. So now what you have the ability to do is take a device, again, could be anything, could be a laptop, could be a mobile phone, could be a tablet, take these and have them available, but just open them up on Wi-Fi. And now via Network Virtualization 9.0, you have the ability to run this Wi-Fi baseline condition. Well, you also have the ability to run a 3G typical condition. You can run a 3G poor condition. So now you can change and toggle all these conditions. You can change it by IP address of that device as well. So maybe you want to have a few devices that are set up, and you just run through these different conditions. I've also found this very interesting to do as I'm going through maybe my user acceptance testing or usability testing, and to be able to hand my business owner, hey, here is a mobile phone, and I want you to have the experience of someone using this on a 3G port as they're going through our business process. And you can see what that's like. Now, in parallel to doing this as a manual mobile test scenario, maybe you also are in parallel running one of your load and performance scenarios, which is also taking into conditions all of these different end users that you've got. So now, again, this is what you, as an end user over a 3G port, is going to experience while the application is under load in production. Again, completely changes their experience and their response times, and there's really eliminating those surprises once you do deploy it out into production. Second use case we can look at. So, hey Todd, I want to set this up with automated functional and or integrated load and performance test scenario, kind of like what I was just alluding to, but let me put a visual behind it for you. So it did look familiar. So we've got, that mobile device, we're accessing a Wi-Fi router, and again, going through NV 9.0 over this 3G port connection. Well, introducing, again, a capability we have called Mobile Center, which is where you simply have this harness. Within the harness, you can plug as many devices in as you have licenses for, but it makes it very simple to say, hey, you know what, there's a new device coming out. All you need to do is as simple as plugging in that USB charge cord, and now you can access this new device within Mobile Center. The other fun part that it does for you is it integrates into, again, a lot of the HP automated tools. So this one being HP True Client, again, thinking about how do you leverage that now within something like Unified Functional Test, leveraging it within some of the scripting that you could do within Load Runner or Performance Center. Again, all of that comes along with this package. So now you can very quickly see this integration with Mobile Center, see how you could run one or multiple automated scripts with many different mobile devices, or even across a couple different desktops and a couple different browsers. Again, all of these capabilities available to you, and very simple to do. So that's kind of use case number 2. Use case number 3, I started to allude to before with that data center consolidation or data center relocation scenario. So we want to be able to simulate a network between servers. I had another scenario where I had an opportunity to work on, it was a pretty big data center, but they were running out of power and cooling. They also wanted to set up a secondary or a resilient data center, so they were going to have to move one of their 2 large mainframe systems, but they knew they were going to have to move it about 300 miles, it was about 400 miles away, and they didn't know what would that happen if they're running both of those concurrently to get through their month-end processing. So here's how to do that, and I'll walk through the scenario of being able to leverage Network Virtualization 9.0, simulating this network between servers. And as we can see, we're setting it up in router mode. We've got these 2 different subnets, and to help you a little bit, this is Washington State versus New York. And as you would have those 2, you can now turn on Network Virtualization to recreate that scenario. So if you had an office, say out in Washington, you had an office in New York, and you wanted to say, hey, how is this experience going to be for my end users as they're trying to communicate between one coast of the United States on the west with Washington and another coast on the east in New York? Again, what is that going to look like? This gives you that ability to now recreate that condition so that you can see how it's going to work. Well, now maybe you also, in that scenario, say, well, yeah, that's interesting, but I also want to try it over different mobile networks. Again, let's go to that single user testing. Let's try it over different mobile networks. Again, how long does it take each one of these different transactions? What are those types of results that we can then get out of that? Again, all of this becoming available with these network virtualization capabilities. And again, highlighting for you, this is the amount of time that's being spent on these networks. So as we look at some of these advantages of network virtualization, again, we can ensure that network performance and functional issues being identified before. I don't know, again, if you look at your production incidents, if you look at everything else that goes on there, how many of those scenarios for you today are you not able to catch as a result of not looking at the networks? Or system capacity. Again, are you working with your capacity teams? Are you working with your disaster recovery teams? As I look at performance engineering, it's really, okay, we've got X amount of users that we're bringing on every day. We've got some, promotions or sales that are coming up, or maybe you have a huge event. Well, how is it that that system capacity is going to be validated? And again, looking at the impact the network has, it is significant. Application being optimized for all these different locations. So all your different users on whatever networks are on, being able to optimize your application, because we all know that you have no control over your network. So we talked through these different use cases. We talked through some of these deployments that, looking at Network Virtualization 9.0 in desktop mode, again, you can see how this can be done. A manual testing scenario, single mode, with NV 9.0 sitting on the desktop and then accessing that system under test. Again, it tends to surprise a lot of people when they understand, oh, so I don't need to write all these test scenarios for, that relocation or whatever. No, what if you just put this on the person's desktop? I mean, you could even push it out through your enterprise system, Network Virtualization 9.0, that is, load the default profile in there that you want to run, and then just capture these results behind the scenes. Again, in the demo that you had done, you may have seen it, but there's a checkbox for being able to do a packet capture. So again, you can recreate this via the PCAP file or a HAR file and get those results and scan them at a much, much larger volume by doing something like that. The other one that we talked about a little bit was the shared mode for mobile testing. Again, going across this Wi-Fi or accessing it via a PC client or a laptop. Again, making it very easy to do your shared network connections and being able to also get some of these results, triggering different tests, everything from that specific mobile client. Again, a capability that makes it really easy to deploy this out across many, many teams. Again, we've seen many organizations deploying this now out to hundreds of developers to give them this ability. And again, third is this router mode. So being able to simulate it between the servers. And again, the configuration that we talked through a bit. But again, I always like to reinforce this, especially in an opportunity where we can do a deep dive. So we're polling question number 3, and really looking at where is it that we use it. Again, a lot of people came back with financial services, but the majority still fell on everywhere. This is why. So you can see across, again, the columns are a lot of the different industries, and then across the rows being all the different projects that we typically end up working with in our daily jobs. So whether it's a web or a mobile application, which is where people tend to go first, all of these apply. No matter what industry you're in, again, you've got distributed end users. They're being impacted by the network. Same thing on the enterprise systems with SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, PeopleSoft, all of them. Again, they're distributed. Remote site operations. Again, are you moving a large people group from a corporate office into a remote site? Are you doing other things like further down the list here, a data center consolidation or relocation? What type of e-commerce or point of sale systems do you have? Again, looking at different hotels, restaurants, bars, again, a lot of them having these large e-commerce and point of sale systems. How does that impact your back-end systems as well as your end users at that location? A performance COE, performance incident management process, adopting these capabilities, being able to recreate them so that when you do have the fix, you know that it's going to work. You're not simply going to be guessing any longer. And then lastly, how is it we build this into your release automation, your release management, and ultimately your end-to-end DevOps cycle? So again, taking these capabilities, introducing them early so that as you're developing your applications, as you're running your first set of automated tests, maybe they're unit tests, maybe you do a quick build and then a deploy and you run a very quick 10 or 15 minute load or performance smoke test. Again, build this in. Get these optimization recommendations at that stage. Again, you're working inside of that dev test team. You can get these results, incorporate them, and know that as you move further down that release train, everything has already been optimized. You're not waiting for that stopping point, as many of us have done historically, or just ignoring it completely and then moving on. So I've got a number of different examples in here. I've included 4. All of these are existing HP customers. I've removed their names because I didn't want to get into any bit of a legal trouble. But what I wanted to share with you is this first one looks at it from a mobile CRM system. Their existing load runner customer. They've added on the network virtualization capability for this end-to-end. And what they had seen is being able to create these accurate performance testing environments for a manufacturing company. And again, many of these, you'll see exactly the business challenge, the solution, the benefits that they're realizing, and then also a quote from one of the key stakeholders in that organization. So in the interest of time, I want to kind of share each of these with you. Again, this will be available in the recording as well as I'm going to try to get the deck and make that available to all of you as well. Some of the benefit statements in here that are significant, again, this being in a mobility scenario with Performance Center and Load Runner and network virtualization, but when you look at the benefits, the second bullet here is eliminating severe performance issue delays of 4 to 6 months. So again, when you look at being able to get that time back and accelerating your development and deployment scenario, delays of 4 to 6 months is significant. The other piece is performance increase with mobile by up to 10 times. So again, much of which Yoav and I have covered today, that was that specific example. And again, here's a customer reference sharing with them or with us. This is a mobile and web scenario, Performance Center with NV for an integrated solution. This was in Europe, a very large financial institution in Europe. They had seen savings from just reducing the number of performance incidents over 720 euros. I'm sorry, 720,000 euros. That was just from this first implementation. As we were working together with them and we looked at, okay, how else can you use this and what are the other benefits you're going to see? They actually had an expected ROI of an additional 1.5 million euros simply from driving additional revenue in through their mobile channel. As we move to this next one, you'll see, here's a retailer doing a data center move. And in the benefits, you'll see that they found a way to save over $10 million in 3 years, again, through performance incidents and costly production-based remediation. This was the savings. If you look under the business challenge, you'll see that they previously had a web outage, which cost the company over $100 million. There was actually some senior leadership that was terminated as a result of that, and this team did not want to have similar failures. So again, here's how, by leveraging these capabilities, they were able to not only mitigate that future risk, but also be able to quantify more than $10 million savings in 3 years from avoiding performance incidents. As we look at these fundamentals, I mean, there's really, I think of any of the online or any of these transactional-based retailer-type experiences, and it's quite funny. I'd like to share this story simply from the perspective of let's help people understand a little bit more that it's not quite as simple as they might think. I often get this question of, hey, Todd, isn't it really simple? This typical online purchasing has these predictable landmarks in its process. I come in, I'm using a website or a mobile app, I log in, I add some items to a cart, I check out, I want to do some shipping things, I want to track the delivery of it, and then ultimately it gets delivered. It's that simple, right? Well, no. Rarely it is. And see, why not? Well, we can start looking at each one of these different elements, and I've just added some components here to kind of help to illustrate this story. But as you log in, again, there's some database activity that happens. You want to validate from a security perspective. As you add things into the cart, again, you're going to do a query to find out, do we have inventory? That's database activities that are happening. So as we move through this entire process, you can see all these different components have significant network dependencies in what might have been thought of as this simple transaction. You can see the little gray ends that I've added here. All of these are different networks. So again, how are you doing this today? These are the capabilities of what HP network virtualization are, and it enable you to be able to simply, recreate these conditions, ultimately getting you to the point where you are going to deliver these 5-star experiences for your end users, knowing that whether it's your web application, your mobile app, anything across all industries, that it's optimized to perform well across any network conditions. It is definitely not a straight line, so again, I feel free to use this example. It's one that I often like to share, and we get into a lot more detailed conversations around. So just to recap on network virtualization, there's probably 4 elements that I wanted to cover with you. Discover and capturing these network conditions, all of them: latency, bandwidth, packet loss, and jitter. Also being able to emulate these production environments using these real-world network conditions. Again, emulating is we're recreating these conditions with 100% accuracy so that as you put your next build out and you run another test, you know that you have that controlled environment from a network perspective. Nothing is more important in my mind as you're developing and testing and then just redoing that entire cycle. You need it to be accurate. You need it to be repeatable. The analysis piece. So being able to get the performance, the scalability, even the functional results, even as a single user, getting that capability, and then lastly, being able to optimize for the network. So there's automated optimization recommendations, code level, so that you can now build your applications to be higher performing across any network. This is how we do it. You'll see that if you go out to hp.com/go/nv, there's a little area that you click on for the downloads. When you click on that, this is what you will see. So the first set here are the network capture mobile apps. If you click on either the Android or the iOS, it'll take you to that specific store so that you can download them. They're free. Use them, impress your friends. Again, enjoy it. It's something that I wanted to make available to you quickly. Network virtualization for Load Runner gives you the ability to download and start using this today. Same thing for Performance Center, same thing for Performance Center on SaaS. And then the last one here is network virtualization for mobile. Again, this one is both for the mobile capabilities as well as the standalone desktop capabilities. Again, you can download these and start using them today. Terry, I know things that have come in, and before I close out this webinar, I wanted to just check with you and see what we might have.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Todd. And in the essence of time, why don't we just take a couple here. One question, there's so much information in this presentation, so it was so helpful, but I think they want to understand how do they get started with network virtualization? What would be the first steps?
All right, so that sounds like an easy one. I will take it. So I guess, Terry, the question, how do I get started with network virtualization? Well, I just got done going through the trial, so maybe that one came in earlier, but I would encourage you to check out the trial downloads. That's a great place to start. I will also be sharing with you again the HP NV freemium link. That might actually be the easiest way to get started. Go in there, it takes you about 30 seconds of your time to submit the form, and then just wait 3 to 5 minutes and you will get a results report that's customized for you. So again, that's probably the 2 ways that I would point people to getting started quickly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And the next, more specifically, how does licensing for Load Runner 12.5 work when we add network virtualization? For instance, is it included at no charge?
Great question, Yoav. I don't know if you want to cover that. I know this is a newer feature within the 12.5 release, is how we've been able to simplify the licensing.
Yeah, actually, we just you just install the Load Runner license, and you get for free 2 virtual network virtualization user. So you just get it when you finish to install Load Runner. In addition, you have also a 30-day trial license with the analytics, which provide you full recommendations for all the analytics. We just show part of the report right now. And after 30 days, the report is partial. You can still have some of the recommendations. You can still have the waterfall, but not everything is for free after the 30 days.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Yoav. You actually answered several other questions that people had. So let me just scan then and pick one more question here. And you talked about the free version, and also they can learn more about network virtualization by downloading that trial, and Todd gave them the link in the presentation. So let's wrap up with this question. Do you need to have HP Mobile Center to utilize network virtualization for mobiles?
So the answer to that question is no, you do not. So, and again, you're kind of restating what I'm hearing though. So to use network virtualization with mobile, do I need to have Mobile Center from HP? So the answer is no. One of the ways you could use it is from Mobile Center. However, if you have network virtualization for mobile, then what you have the ability to do is install it on a desktop, go ahead and recreate those conditions and open up the Wi-Fi so that then you can connect through and run these tests very quickly. So that was one of the deployment scenarios we did walk through. But again, you could just buy network virtualization for mobile, and that would enable you to run some manual tests and get these types of results. And it's also a great way to get started and kind of show, immediate and very significant results for your mobile app. And again, it's up and running. I mean, I've had this up and running in less than 4 hours, and you're immediately getting results. It's a great way to see the value of this capability.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Todd. And as a reminder, we answered a lot of the questions because of how thorough the presentation was, but if there were any that were not answered, they will be all shared in a written format along with the webinar recording and slides at the Vivid website, and you will receive an email with that link. So, go ahead, Todd.
Excellent. Thank you, Terry. And just to wrap things out, I know that I told you I would show you this link again. Highly encourage you. Go get your results now. You can see the URL. It's hp.com/go/nvfreemium. All you need to do, again, less than 30 seconds of your time to fill out a little bit of information about yourself, and then the test that you want to run, hit Run My Test Now, and within 3 to 5 minutes you will get this 20-plus page results report. Really helps to take everything that Yoav and I have covered today and give you results near immediately that you can see and understand a bit more on. Also, some news from HP Software. Of course, would want to encourage you to visit our IT experts community. Out there you'll find a lot of different things, including forums, blogs, some other upcoming events, and also you could register for our monthly newsletter. Visit the LoadRunner Performance Center blog. I will also include a link to that on the Vivid site so that you can go and check out the blog from this event. And then lastly, I wanted to encourage you guys to stay tuned. We've got an upcoming 12.5 release that we're going to be announcing soon. So the piece that we showed you, the LoadRunner 12.5 that was released back on the 12th of August, there's a lot more coming behind that as far as other new capabilities. So please stay tuned. And again, if you can just complete a short survey at the end here and go ahead and opt in for more information from HP. Also wanted to leave you with just a few links. Again, the NV page where you can learn more now, the NV freemium, the td@hp.com is my email address, and of course the vividworldwide.org site. So with that said, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Terry, Yoav, thank you guys all for helping us to lead this discussion, and look forward to seeing you guys all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.